The number 10 thing are the guitar sounds. Guitar sounds here in GarageBand are, yeah, they haven't changed. In the 7 years that I've been creating music in GarageBand, these guitars are exactly the same. Okay, they've added one. They've added the Roots Rock, but all the other guitars are basically the same. So we've got Graham doing this thing here. So Graham's taken a break from listening to his vinyl, and he's playing us a nice like tom drum kind of sound there. Let's throw some guitars on this. So we're going to hit plus, and we're going to go to the guitar. So when you come into the guitar, there's your hard rock guitar. We'll go back to the acoustic guitar. So yeah, but there are ways that you can kind of improve these guitars here. So what we'll do, let's throw on the hard rock guitar, and let's see if I think autoplay 3 might be something that we can try here. So let's hit the record button and just record in a little bit of autoplay over the top of our drums. 2, 3, 1, what to do? All right, so that'll do us. I didn't like that last chord change. So in fact, we're going to split this out here. So let's just grab this, and we'll just go with the first 4, and we'll just do a loop of those. All right. So there's our guitar sound. We just want the 8 bars. There you go. So you know what? It's okay. Like, it's all right. It's got a bit of a sound there. Here's the thing, though. GarageBand will process this to start with. So the first thing you want to do here using the guitar is I generally just bring it right back, because that, like the echo and the reverb, the master echo and reverb work okay, but sometimes you want to customize it a bit. What you can then do is change up this guitar, bring it back to its regular sound. So if instead of the hard rock, why don't we bring this back to the classic clean guitar sound that we have here? This is kind of just, you know, tidying it up a little bit, and you're going to get a sound like this. There is a trick that we use here in GarageBand, and that is the merge trick. So if we tap on this little icon here and we hit the merge button, what this is going to do, it's going to grab, if we just select that track, we hit merge, it's going to grab this track now that's been cleaned up, and it's going to make it an audio track. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because what we can do now is add our plugins. We can use something like ToneBridge on this. So ToneBridge, if you're not familiar, is a free AUV3 instrument plugin. So if we come in here to the plugins and EQ, we go to our audio unit effects and extensions and scroll on down and find ToneBridge. What we can do is we can use ToneBridge to create any sound we like here. Now, ToneBridge is cool because you can just search here and we can search out. So what sort of tone do we want here? I want to make this like a Tool song. So let's search for the band Tool. They're one of my favorite bands of all time. So we'll search out Tool, and maybe we'll go with something from probably Anima, maybe the Stinkfist tone. Let's just grab this Stinkfist tone. And now if we take a listen, pretty cool, yeah. That tone's a little bit too trebly. So why don't we try a different tone? Maybe we'll use a Pearl Jam tone. What about the tone from Alive by Pearl Jam? Yeah, we want something a bit more sludgy. What's something sludgy that we can get in here? So why don't we go with, let's see if we can find a Metallica tone, because everyone loves a bit of Metallica. Master of Puppets tone, what do you reckon? So yeah, so still not great, but here's the thing. Now we can start sculpting the tone. Now we can go, let's just see if we want to, maybe remove, if it's too twangy, maybe we want a little bit more guts in it. There you go. We'll use that for now. If you only use virtual instruments, you probably don't know about this. But if you use things like a microphone, which I've brought in over on the side here, this one should be plugged in to my audio interface, and we should be able to use this. So if we want to add, say, an audio track, so we're going to hit, now you can't see it actually, there's in the bottom left, I've hit the plus button, trust me. So let's grab our audio recorder and go to our voice. And we're going to go lead vocals on this one. We'll just leave it as lead vocals. Let's turn our monitor on. Yes, we would like to turn that monitoring on. There we go. What am I talking about here with the track view when recording? In fact, I'm just going to put that banner out of the way so you can see everything here. So I've got my audio interface set here. I've got channel 1 there. When I turn my monitor on, check. 1, 2, 3. Wah, wah. We can hear myself coming through there. Here's the problem. If we come back to the track view and say we want to be watching this guitar track while we record, and we hit the record button, check out what happens. All I want to see is that guitar track, but GarageBand covers it up. Not cool, yeah? So regardless of what you do there, it's going to cover up. Let's turn the monitor off. It's going to cover up that track. So the workaround for this one is to create a dummy track and to use this method. I've been using this forever, and it's as simple as tapping on this one, duplicating that track out, so you've got 2 tracks. Now you do need a 2-channel interface. So thankfully, if you're using a Scarlett 2i2, a Behringer UM2, a Steinberg that I'm using, Steinberg UR22C, you can do this. So all you need to do is come in here and make your dummy track be track 2. And then use your multi-track recording here to record onto both. So to do that, I want to hit the red light there, turn my monitor on here. So now I'm only monitoring this track, but because this track will also be recording at the same time, it will leave me on my track view screen so I can be watching everything else as I record. Let's show you how it works. This is really the only way to record your vocals, 'cause you get to see your track view. Works, yeah? And then all you need to do, to turn the monitor off, all you need to do is just delete out that dummy track. So I just leave a dummy track, don't delete them both. I just leave a dummy track there the whole time and just go with it, because it just means that you just leave that dummy track on the other one. And obviously if I was recording guitar, if I was on the other input, I'd just need to come to my dummy track and change this one to channel 1, and then put my guitar to channel 2 if I was plugged into that second channel. Next one is backwards compatibility. Every time there's a new version of GarageBand, the old versions are no longer compatible. So here is where you need to go in your GarageBand. So you just go to your regular settings, that cogs app, go to GarageBand, and you'll be able to see the version number here. So I'm on version 2.3.12, as you can see in the bottom right corner there. And there's, by the way, there's also some cool options in here. If you've never been in here, you've got cool things in here like your note labels and enabling the default plugins. This is where you can reset GarageBand if it's ever crashing and not opening. So a few additional tips in there for you. But yeah, you can see the version there. The reason that I think that backwards compatibility is so poor here in GarageBand is that as soon as they have a new version of iOS, and even if the update is merely to add a new sound pack, they just completely brick all previous ones. So when we went from iOS 14 to 15, I want to say, that exact same thing happened. So we went from 2.3.11 to 2.3.12. Now, both of those GarageBand versions are exactly the same. There is no changes in them apart from one sound pack. However, if you are on iOS 14 with GarageBand 2.3.11 and then someone opens your file and saves it in 2.3.12, guess what? There is no going back. You have to be on the latest version. So it kind of pushes you towards having that. What do I say about this? Say it with me, folks. Don't upgrade your iOS version until you are not in the middle of an important project. GarageBand's MIDI support, let's just say it leaves a lot to be desired. So you can import MIDI. There's videos here on the channel that show how you can import a MIDI. You basically just download it and then you can throw it straight over from here. And it does a pretty good job. It does a good job of bringing those MIDI instruments, unless it doesn't. And that's the problem. Sometimes it'll put your drums on your keyboard track. Sometimes it'll put your keys on your drum track. And there's really no way to fix that. There is a kind of hacky workaround, a way that you can sort of move things from one to another. And I show it how to change from strings to keys and keys to strings. There's a video here on the channel. I'll just find it, actually. You literally just grab the track. So say you've got a drum track that's on a keyboard track. You grab the track and then you copy it, but you've got to copy it in a very certain way with an audio track just above it, and then you paste it in and it will reallocate those. So what I normally say is just go find yourself another MIDI file that does allocate them to the correct channels. But if you can't, then yeah, you might want to do that. Should we put that microphone out of the way? There's no way to send MIDI out to external MIDI devices, and there is no exporting MIDI. Mac compatibility. So we talked about backwards compatibility. Let's talk about Mac compatibility. So here's the good news. The good news is that GarageBand Mac can take basically any GarageBand iOS project and import it into GarageBand Mac, where you can then use it to your heart's content. You can add things. It's all lovely. You feel like you're in a happy, happy world. Until you try to bring it back to iOS, and you can do it, but it's different. So what I'll do, if you use the YouTube, and if you go Pete John's GarageBand Mac to iOS, you will get this video here. So instead of showing you the 15 minutes of video, I'm just going to say go away and take a look at this one, because I do show how to actually transfer your projects from iOS to Mac. It's super simple. You can use iCloud Drive. That's probably the easiest way. You can airdrop it. There's a bunch of ways you can do that. And then you can send it back to iOS. Here's the thing though. The way it works going back to iOS is that you make the change in the Mac version and then you send it, but you've got to export it in a particular way, which I show in that video. And the particular way makes it able to be opened as an iOS project, but it only brings in one stereo audio track, which you might think, well, that's a bit naff. How does that work? You then go and add your other tracks, and then when you save it over here in iOS, it adds those tracks to the original project in Mac. It sounds a bit clunky, and it is a bit clunky, but it's better than what you'd think. Undo and redo. Now, this is both a great thing and also a really annoying thing. So the fact that we can undo things, so we don't like that last thing we do, we hit the undo button, and you can see there, that bit that I trimmed goes away, and it keeps, I think, 10 levels of undo here. It also keeps redo up to 10 levels. So if we tap and hold on the undo button, we can redo, and a lot of folks don't know that one. That was a revelation a few weeks ago when I showed that as a tip, is you can redo by tapping and holding, and you can redo things that you've undone. Here's the problem here. Now I'm going to save out of here, which is a precursor to something we're going to show in a moment, and let's just name this project to, we'll show it to Peeves. Okay, it's Peeves. So these are my pet peeves. Look what happens when you close and open a project. Oh no, my undo. Now this is something that has come up. I get asked about this a lot. People are like, I did a bunch of stuff and then I may have saved over something and then I deleted something and then I saved it. But then when I reopened it, I couldn't undo it. Yeah, that's the problem. You can't. It does not keep any. In no way will it ever keep any. And this is a problem because of what I'm going to tell you in a couple of items time, where you want to be saving regularly and using version control, but unfortunately, the more you save, the less able you are to use undo. So it's a bit of a catch-22. You got to kind of work out, is it more important for you to make sure you don't lose something through the save, or is it more important for you to have your undo and your redo intact? Optimizing performance. I can open the same project on my iPad Air 2, on my iPhone 12, and on my iPad Pro 2020, and on the iPad Air 2, I get Optimizing Performance about once every 10 minutes. And I don't think I've seen Optimizing Performance since I've had my iPad Pro 2020. I've also got a first-gen iPad Pro, which is somewhere in between. A really complex project will bring up Optimizing Performance about once every half an hour to an hour of work. Now, there are some ways to actually not avoid, but reduce the amount of optimizing performance that you get. I've got a whole video on it, and yes, I didn't want to make this I did want to make this somewhat practical, but it's kind of hard to show this without getting optimizing performance. It's hard to show optimizing performance, if that makes sense. But if you jump on over here, I've got a couple of videos there. So again, if you search my name, Pete Johns, Optimizing Performance, there are a couple of videos there that give you some tips, some hints and tips about ways to record. And it all comes down to trying to not put too much stress on your iPad or your iPhone. So the more instruments you're using, the more tracks you're using, the more effects you're using, the more processing, the more external audio unit plugins you're using, then the more likely there is to be optimizing performance. For the blessed few who don't know what the heck I'm talking about with optimizing performance is something that pops up on GarageBand randomly or apparently randomly. And over the years, we've learned a little bit about it. So you'll be here working away, not there, you'll be there, you'll be here working away, you'll do something, you'll come in here and you'll make one change. So it can be as simple as coming in here and doing a split or like doing some edit. You'd come in here and you'll go edit, and then you'll change a note here and then you'll press play. And instead of it, your vocals, instead of it playing, It'll say optimizing performance. You get a little ticker that goes across. You have no idea how long it's going to take, and it sits there spinning its wheels. It's like the beach ball of doom from Mac, but for iOS. No auto save. So again, because I do the job I do, which is helping folks create their best music in GarageBand for the most part, no autosave has ruined many people's days regularly. There are workarounds for it. We talked about it with the undo and the redo, if you go back to that section. But here's the problem. If we come in here and we make a bunch of changes here and we do a bunch of movements around and we've got everything set up here, and then something happens, we get an optimizing performance that doesn't work, or something crashes, or we leave it for too long and then we come back and we've forgotten to save and it's just crashed out, guess what? You've lost everything. There is no autosave. Unlike most things in 2022, where we do have autosave and we do have the ability to retain some of that stuff, if you're using GarageBand, you simply don't. There is no way to autosave. So what do I recommend? I've said it a bunch of times. It's to save regularly anytime you do a major thing. So I tend to do it about every half an hour to an hour. So let's just say I'm sitting down and I'm tracking some guitars and some vocals. If I've recorded 2 guitars, they're sounding pretty right, I'll probably save out and then come back in, and then I'll record maybe 4 or 5 vocal takes, and then I'll save out. And every time I save, what I do, and if you've got enough space to do it, this is what I recommend, is to use version control here. So what do I mean? So I've saved this project. I'm now going to tap and hold, and I'm going to duplicate, and it'll add a number 2 after it. Now I start working on project number 2. So I want to add in some more percussion here. Let's just say I want to go in and use the beat sequencer to just put like a cool 4 on the floor on this one. Because you've got to have an 808 and everything. No, let's go with the Blue Ridge. And we record that in. This is really the only way to record your vocals, because you get to see your track view. And we want to record that in there. So I've done a whole bunch of other work here now. Now, that's not saved. That's nowhere yet. This is just in memory. And if things crash, if things go bad, I lose the lot. So what do? We save. To save in GarageBand, you literally hit the button in the top left, and that's saved out there. Then what do? Okay, well, we're going to duplicate again. Boom, we've duplicated, and we've got Puvables number 3. And what this does is it gives you the ability to go back in time and say, actually, I really hate that new bit that I did. Let's just go back to the OG version and work on this. And then when you've worked on that, you can come out here and you can duplicate that, and it'll duplicate out. So if we went to the first one now and we duplicate it, it'll overwrite that and go up to number 4. So it just gives the opportunity to have multiple versions, to not lose anything. Yeah, it uses up a bit of space every time you do it, but it is so much better than losing everything. What is the number 2, the penultimate pet peeve of GarageBand? Well, it's the fact that we have no master track. Yeah. So what is a master track? A master track is exactly what it sounds like. It is your master bus. It's your left and right stereo channel. GarageBand has one, but it's hidden. You can't adjust it. So it means you can't adjust your overall volume. It means you can't put any effects over the entire project. And it just makes life a little bit challenging, not having a master track here in GarageBand. And weirdly enough, as we talked about before with compatibility, when you push it out to GarageBand on Mac, you do have a master track, so you can use it over there. So that's solution number 1. Send it over to Mac before you start doing and playing around with mastering. The other thing you can do is the hack. I've showed it a bunch of times, and I apologize for those that have been around this channel a while. It's the FX trick. So how do we do it? We tap on FX. We just record in any old FX. This is really the old... We stop. We tap the FX to go away. We delete out by tapping and deleting this. And then we leave this FX track here. What is good about this? Well, what we can do is go up to this dial here, and we can go to the visual EQ on this one. Tap on that. And now we can use this gain, this volume slider over here, to adjust the overall volume of our track. Let's take a look. This is really the only way to record your vocals, because you get to see it. Now, why is this important? Because if you have your track too loud, see how it was clipping? It was right up the top there. That's going to mean when you export it, there's going to be some automated limiting, which is what creates that sound. When you export something from GarageBand, it sounds absolutely fine in GarageBand, and then you export it, and every time a snare or a kick drum hits, you go, you get that pumping sound. If you're ever getting that pumping sound, it's because your overall mix is too loud. And the ultimate pet peeve, the thing that grinds my gears more than anything else with GarageBand, is auto normalization. Now, this one's related to the master track because it's what we were talking about before, but the thing is, it's worse than that, because if you come in, even if you come in here and you turn this down to like this level, take a look at how low this is. This is really the only way to record. What GarageBand does is it does a very nice thing for you. It holds your hand in a lot of ways. So it says, oh, you didn't mean that to be that low. When we export this track, what we're going to do is bump it up to 0 dB. So bump it up to the loudest that it can be without clipping. Now the good thing is, like, let's just export this. Let's give a little demo here. So if we're going to hit the share button on this one here, see how it grabs the loudest part and it increases it all the way up to 100% volume. Now that is a pain in the butt because you don't want it to be that loud, right? You want to have that headroom built in, because if you want to master this track, you want to have that additional room. Now there are ways to do this that do actually help with this. So if we come all the way back out here, if you've done this trick here where you've reduced down the volume there, what you can do is insert a very loud noise at the start of your track and then export it. And what you'll find, just have it at a point where there's nothing else playing. And then what you'll find is that loud noise, because the loudest noise is what gets auto-normalized to 0. So put a really loud noise in there, and there's a video here on the channel. I'll link it down in the description. But you can basically just shout into your microphone, distort it, turn the volume up to 11, and put that in there. And then it will trick GarageBand into thinking that's supposed to be part of your song. Then when you jump over to audio share, you just trim it out, and then you don't have to worry about that auto normalization. You can actually have your tracks lower than that 0 dB.